The movie unfolds with Lydia Dietz, a psychic and host of the show, Ghost House, introducing a segment in a haunted attic where a couple from Wisconsin recounts their terrifying experiences in what was supposed to be their dream home. As the couple shares their spine-chilling encounters, Lydia, known for her psychic prowess, anticipates a difficult meeting with the supernatural forces at play. However, during the broadcast, Lydia begins to feel unwell, prompting an unexpected early end to the show. Later, Lydia receives a distress call from her stepmother Delia, who is in tears at work. Rushing to her, Lydia learns the devastating news that her father has died. Through an animated flashback, the film reveals that he survived a plane crash on his return from a bird-watching expedition, only to be fatally attacked by a shark. This shocking news sets the stage for a series of events that intertwine the worlds of the living and the dead. Lydia and Delia are faced with the challenge of breaking this tragic news to Astrid, Lydia's daughter. Meanwhile, a dramatic entrance is made by Dolores, a figure who literally puts herself back together, assembling her limbs with staples to reclaim her fearsome presence. Dolores, driven by vengeance, is on the hunt for Beetlejuice and coldly extracts an old man's soul when he refuses to divulge information about him. The scene shifts to Astrid at school, unaware of the turmoil surrounding her family. Lydia and Delia head there to deliver the news personally, mentioning that Charles's body is being transported to Winter River. When they arrive, Delia gently informs Astrid of her grandfather's passing, urging her to show empathy towards her mother. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice and his odd crew, including Wolf Jackson, who is an underworld officer masquerading as an actor, are warned about Dolores. Jackson cryptically warns Beetlejuice that Dolores, his soul-sucking ex-wife, is out for revenge, advising him to lay low as escape seems impossible. Despite the grim warning, Beetlejuice dismisses it, remaining unconcerned with his impending fate. The narrative circles back to Lydia's dysfunctional family gathered at Charles's funeral, surrounded by loved ones. In the realm of the dead, Dolores reappears, draining the receptionist to adopt a new disguise. Beetlejuice, avoiding his past, is shown a picture of Dolores by Jackson and feigns ignorance. The truth gradually unfurls, revealing that Dolores was once Beetlejuice's wife, a deadly cult leader who had tried to kill him to gain immortality. But her plan backfired when Beetlejuice retaliated, hacking her into pieces with an axe. In Winter River, the haunted house takes on a somber air after Charles's death, almost as if the house itself is grieving. Rory takes this moment to propose to Lydia, suggesting a Halloween wedding just 2 days away. Lydia hesitates but eventually kisses Rory, signaling her acceptance as the family celebrates. However, Astrid, visibly upset, storms off on her bicycle, nearly crashing due to her emotional turmoil. A young man named Jeremy comes to her aid, sparking a conversation that unveils her family tensions. In the underworld, Dolores's quest for revenge against Beetlejuice intensifies as she tears through obstacles in her path. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice, ever the schemer, spots Lydia in a newspaper article about Charles's death, seeing her as a key to reconnecting with the living world. Astrid stumbles upon a model of Winter River and a mysterious ad offering contact with Beetlejuice. When Lydia discovers this, she warns Astrid about the dangers of invoking Beetlejuice, forbidding her from returning to the attic. Lydia confides in Delia, expressing that Beetlejuice seems too real to be a mere hallucination. Meanwhile, Rory is caught up in wedding planning, but Lydia prefers a more intimate affair, haunted by Beetlejuice's presence. Unable to stand it, Lydia runs to the attic, shouting for Beetlejuice to leave her alone. Rory follows and asks what's going on. Exhausted, Lydia reveals that Beetlejuice isn't just a past memory, but a real threat, trying to force her into marriage to return to life. She tells Rory that saying his name 3 times will summon him. Rory thinks it's psychological and decides facing her fears is best, so he says, "Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice." Suddenly, they are in Beetlejuice's bizarre office, where he appears, showing terrifying visions and preying on their fears. Rory faints and Lydia, terrified, wants to leave. She says home 3 times, and they instantly return. Deeply shaken, Lydia warns Delia and Astrid to leave and destroy the model tied to Beetlejuice. However, Astrid, with plans with Jeremy, begs Lydia to stay a bit longer. Meanwhile, Astrid, intrigued by Jeremy, visits him and learns about his tragic past. He's a ghost, trapped after a fatal fall from a treehouse. Despite his spectral existence, Jeremy offers Astrid a chance to see her father one last time, a tempting prospect she can't ignore. Lydia, sensing danger, casually mentions to a friend that she left Astrid on Jefferson Street. Alarmed, the friend warns her about the ominous murder house where Jeremy resides, revealing his dark past. Lydia races towards Jeremy's house to save Astrid, who, guided by Jeremy, ventures into the world of the dead. As the door closes behind them, Lydia arrives too late to intervene. At the same time, Delia, overwhelmed by grief, succumbs to despair and ends her life with snake bites. Lydia, desperate to save her daughter, turns to Beetlejuice for help. In exchange for saving Astrid, Lydia agrees to a grotesque bargain, marrying Beetlejuice to stop his ex-wife Dolores's relentless pursuit. This agreement inadvertently unleashes chaos as wandering souls escape into the haunted house. In the afterlife, Astrid, feeling strange, learns from Jeremy that the spell she recited swapped their lives. Agents of the afterlife intervene, processing the life exchange, while Jeremy's soul awaits, stamping to finalize the transfer. Amidst this, Astrid glimpses her father, Richard, at one of the counters. Beetlejuice and Lydia arrive, seemingly too late to reverse the exchange. They dash to the emergency exit and end up in a strange desert with Saturn in the distance. As they try to escape, a bizarre sand creature stalks them. Then, Richard, Astrid's father, appears and rescues them, explaining he's been watching over them and will help them escape, but they must first recover Astrid's life. Beetlejuice, ever cunning, sends Jeremy to hell and insists Lydia uphold their bargain. However, Lydia and Astrid manage to return to the living realm only to find Beetlejuice has brought Delia back from the dead. Beetlejuice reminds everyone of Lydia's contract, forcing her to marry him in front of Rory and gathered influencers as witnesses. He injects Rory with a truth serum, leading Rory to confess he only sought Lydia for her wealth, and that his previous fiancée wasn't dead. Enraged, Lydia punches Rory with a boxing glove from Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice then traps the influencers in their phones and manipulates the priest for his wedding with Lydia, all while singing his twisted version of MacArthur Park, to infuse his grotesque version of romance. The chaos peaks as Wolf Jackson crashes into the cake in the church, bringing afterlife soldiers with him. Beetlejuice unleashes dark energy, freezing the soldiers in place like statues, and mocks them. Just as he revels in his victory, the temperature drops and Dolores, his lethal ex-wife, emerges from the shadows, filled with wrath and hatred. Beetlejuice retreats to avoid her. Meanwhile, Astrid and Delia find a spellbook, and Astrid draws a door on the floor. A giant sandworm emerges, the same one that once threatened Astrid and her mother, and devours Dolores and Rory, dragging them to the afterlife. Freed from Dolores, Beetlejuice focuses on marrying Lydia, but Astrid intervenes, reminding him of Code 699, which nullifies any contract since the living can't enter the afterlife without permission. Beetlejuice is momentarily speechless. For the first time, Lydia takes control of the situation. She repeats the fatal word, Beetlejuice, 3 times. Beetlejuice begins to float in the air. His body inflates and disintegrates in an explosion. The freezing spell breaks and Wolf Jackson, now free, helps Delia transition peacefully to the afterlife. Lydia and Astrid, finally free from Beetlejuice's haunting presence, share a moment of relief and triumph. Delia bids them farewell, with a warm smile, ready to reunite with the man she always loved. The movie concludes with Lydia reflecting on her life, declaring her intention to live fully and create memories with those she loves. The epilogue shows Astrid thriving in her new school, marrying and having a baby. However, Lydia is jolted awake by a dream of the baby being the reincarnation of Beetlejuice, only to find him grinning beside her before vanishing. The film ends on an unsettling note, leaving audiences wondering if Beetlejuice is truly gone, or merely biding his time for a return.